Nearly 2 years after the Capitol riot, the House January 6th committee released its findings this week. The 814-page report calls the events of that day unimaginable and places the blame for the deadly attack squarely on the shoulders of former President Donald Trump. In a video posted to his social media platform last night, Trump tried to shift blame to congressional leaders for not having proper security in place at the Capitol. But the man in charge of Homeland Security in Washington that day says the attack on the Capitol was not an intelligence failure. Jeff Pegues has that story.
January 6th was certainly, in my view, the most significant terrorist attack on the United States since 9/11.
Christopher Rodriguez dismisses accusations that the attack on the Capitol was the result of an intelligence failure.
You don't think it was?
No, it was not an intelligence failure, a failure to share intelligence.
CBS News has obtained what are among the most detailed intelligence documents law enforcement had at that time. They outline the threat, that incidents of violence are likely to occur. At least 20 groups, several with a history of espousing violent intent, will congregate. Some will carry firearms. Among those groups, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and the Oath Keepers. Rodriguez, who worked at the CIA, has experience planning for potential attacks. Leading up to January 6, he planned for worst-case scenarios, including that then-President Trump could call his supporters to action, perhaps by tweeting that no one should be standing by any longer, and ultimately invoking the Insurrection Act, federalizing the D.C. National Guard and local police until the national emergency was over.
You had to game plan all the different potential scenarios.
Yes.
And that was one of them.
Yes, that we could not depend on the federal government to support us.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
As the January 6th committee confirmed, former President Trump's supporters came to Washington armed. Cameras captured members of the Oath Keepers marching up the Capitol steps in formation. To quell the violence, local law enforcement needed the help of the National Guard and federal law enforcement. A call from the White House would have expedited that help. As the January 6th committee pointed out, that call came too late.
It really was a failure to act and to posture to the intelligence.
In its final report, the committee alleged that Trump refused to act as the riot unfolded, that he watched the riot on television.
The intelligence was there about the strong potential for violence.
To this day, the former president maintains that he did nothing wrong on January 6th and that the investigation is a witch hunt. For CBS Saturday Morning, Jeff Pegues in Washington.